everybody! Welcome to the State of Decay 2 stream. We've got some special guests here today. You can't even see all of them. Most of them are off camera. But we will introduce you right here to Steve Theodore. He is our technical art director. What is a technical art director?
So instead of deciding what's pretty and what's not pretty, I decide like what's affordable and what's not affordable in the game. Like, can we, can we have that many trees, or how are we going to figure out how to make the cars do this thing? That kind of stuff.
So we've got some very specific questions for him about the Xbox One X version of the game.
I'd like to let's be real here. He stands around behind people's desks and starts using terms that none of us understand. It's all technical, and he makes himself sound really smart. That's what you do.
Well, he successfully makes himself sound really smart. That's why we've got him on here today.
I bamboozled these people, so now I can do it to all of you.
That's right.
But before we get to Steve, there's a few important subjects that we wanted to bring up, and I've actually I have them set up all wrong. Hold on a second. That's gone. Okay. Anyway. So we've gotten a lot of questions since the game was announced about some pretty, hot button topics, and one of them is microtransactions. And so we've had a lot of people asking, is this game going to have microtransactions, especially when they saw our very low price point at $30. They're like, oh, I know what they're planning to do. They're going to make us buy, I don't know, currency or energy or something like that. And so the company released a statement about that. And so I got to find a spot on the screen where there's nothing important so I can put this statement up. So State of Decay will not offer or require microtransactions in the traditional manner of loot boxes, in-game currency, or time gates. Instead, we'll provide ongoing DLC content ranging in scale from content packs like the Independence Day pack that's coming out soon after release, and all the way up to full game modes like the Daybreak expansion that we've announced and told you absolutely nothing about. And so that's really important to us for people to understand, because we want them to know that we're not going to be going for any of those Skinner box style buy this again and again and again and again type mechanics. That's not the way that State of Decay rolls. Now we are going to keep trying to expand and support the game over time. And so the reason we want to be very specific about this statement is because if we offer a very small content pack, its price might be very affordable and very very little. And we could imagine somebody going, hey, that's a microtransaction. But the point is, we want to keep expanding and updating this game over time, and that's going to mean paid DLC expansions and things like that. But the thing we're not going to try to do is just have you push a button again and again and again and just keep feeding us nickels. No loot boxes, none of that stuff. So that is our first big statement of the day. Our second one, which is why Steve is here, is this one that I had up on the screen accidentally when we started, which is this is just talking about what you're going to find, what visual enhancements you're going to find on the Xbox One X version of the game. I mean, not version, it's the same game either way, but when you have an Xbox One X, this is what you get. Extra memory and greater processing power give us a more stable frame rate and lets us do more with higher resolution textures. When you're in the game, you immediately see the difference. Denser foliage, detailed shadows, depth of light from farther distances, and more detailed character models. It makes the world feel more crisp, vibrant, and like real life. And of course, it lets us run the game in 4K and HDR, which a lot of fans are excited about. And because a lot of fans are excited about it, we don't just have a statement here, we've got an entire person here, Steve, to expand on this a little bit, because we want to be able to talk a little bit more about what we did and why we did it. So I'll just hand that off to you.
Yeah, well, it's actually been really interesting and really exciting, because 4K does change a lot of things. For the end user, it changes a lot of things in a purely positive direction, and then for us, it makes life a little more complicated.
A little?
Yeah, well, one of the things that's really interesting about the One X is that it's literally pushing 4 times as many pixels as a regular HD display, and so that's a lot more work. The CPU is roughly maybe 3 times faster than the CPU on a 360, or sorry, on an Xbox One. And so, it's a lot faster than a 360. Microsoft did a lot of work, and they did a really brilliant job of making sure that didn't cause a step back. I was actually really worried when we first got our dev kits. I was afraid we were going to turn it on for the first time and everything was going to be a lot slower. But they did a brilliant job of making sure that we were already at parity pretty much right out of the box. But then we started looking at the profiling and sort of stepping through and seeing how decisions we'd made for the original Xbox had to be revisited in order to give people the right kind of experience on the One X. So, like a really good example is like we had a thing for like brick walls, right? You see brick walls in games all the time, and personally, I have this horrible aversion to texture repeats, and so I'd stand there and I just see them. I can't unsee them. So everybody else is like, oh, that's pretty. I'm like, God damn it, there's that same brick every 10 feet. So we had a little procedural system that mucks around with the textures so that when you get a big long wall of brick, you don't see the exact same repeat every place. And that worked great on the original Xbox. And then we discovered as you're walking around in the world for the One X, like you would walk past a brick building and the frame rate would go and it's because there was procedural noise texture in there that's setting up the variation, which is great, except you pay the cost for that on every pixel. So the cost went up by a factor of 4.
Oh, wow.
And so we had to, so we rewrote that, obviously, and there's a lot of work that's gone into making sure that the performance is as optimal as it can be. We work with Microsoft, and they give us a really cool dynamic system that kind of rejiggers what's going on under the hood as you're playing, so that if we hit a bad area for whatever reason, maybe there's a huge number of zombies on screen, or somebody threw 2 smoke grenades and the screen is just drowning in particle cards, we'll basically readjust the performance tuning that we already do in order to keep your frame rate steady. And so I know a lot of people out there were asking about whether there was going to be one of those checkboxes. Some Xbox One X games give you a checkbox. And we're not going to do that right now.
The checkbox that does what specifically?
Oh, yeah. So some games will give you a checkbox that say basically optimize this game for appearance or optimize it for performance. And we opted not to do that this time out because we wanted to put the effort that would have been involved in implementing the alternatives into making sure that everybody got as close to optimal as we can get. Once we get out on the internet, once people are actually playing the game, we're going to have an awful lot more data, and this is something that I'm kind of excited about because we wanted to do this with the original game, but we didn't. We didn't get a chance to plumb it all the way through. So, within a few days of release, there will be millions of hours of people playing the game, and we'll have telemetry data for the technical stuff on that. And so we'll be able to look at that and see whether or not our guesses about how people are going to use the game were correct, and then we can course correct accordingly. So once we get that telemetry data in, we'll be in a lot better position to know which kind of settings we would want to tweak in a flip it up, flip it down kind of console, and whether it's necessary or not. So that's definitely something we're kind of keeping under advisement for future updates. But I think it'll be, I think a lot of people will find they don't really need it. I started off in PC dev, and out there you've got a million variables. You got different kinds of hardware, different versions of the OS, faster, slower hard drive, and then the interactions between all those things. And so on my PC games at home, I have 60 million little tweaky sliders that I like to fiddle with. And I love consoles precisely because I don't have to do that. An on-off checkbox is not too bad, but it's something that we're going to put off until we have better data to decide which of we don't want to expose I guess there's probably about 200, maybe 150 config variables that go into making those decisions. We don't want to expose all of those to everybody. And so we kind of want to get a chance to run some differentials and see which things are going to give us the best bang for the buck and would make a good call.
60 million switches is a lot of switches, Steve. How do you keep track of all those at the same time?
In my giant bulging brain.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Is that what that lump is? Because I was a little worried about it, but now that I know.
So, Gooniverse in the chat asks, can we do a giveaway for Steve's shirt? Because
actually, I think we did these for the first game, and are they still up on, what was it, not Redbubble or whatever? No,
that store is down.
That was a long time ago. Yeah, maybe I'll talk to these guys offline, and maybe we'll arrange a raffle or something.
The very shirt that was sledded into by Steve.
I'm pretty sure they want to bid on your shirt right now.
They don't want the consequences.
Well,
I'm glad somebody noticed I made a point of wearing this today because I knew I was going to be online.
Well, thank you, Steve, for that explanation. And it also kind of highlights the value of having a game where, like our publisher is really committed to letting us support this game over the long term with DLC and free updates and stuff. And it gives you the opportunity to not just have to take stabs in the dark at what people are going to want, but you can actually use real data and give them exactly what it is that they'll benefit the most from.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the things that's really cool about where we're going to be over the next year and a half, is that like we've got a real we got a plan in place to kind of continue putting out new content, and also to be able to do the fixes and the updates and to learn from whatever mistakes we've made, because we probably have made a few.
No.
So yeah, certainly in the hiring process. Right?
Ouch.
So I like just the assumption that we're talking about Brant when we say that. So anyway, thank you, Steve, for coming in and talking to us about this. And so yeah, everybody give a big thank you to Steve 30 seconds from now when this video reaches you.
Just as an update, I did see somebody bid $350 on your shirt.
$350 on your shirt.
Well, $350 what is the question?
Well, this is the question.
Right. Really. So, well, yeah, thanks a lot, Steve. And so we should mention to you guys, you can take off if you want to.
See you, Steve.
Yeah, see you later, Steve. We should mention to you guys that Nicole, if you haven't been paying attention to the chat, Nicole is doing giveaways right now in the chat. Not maybe right this second, but like every 15 minutes she's giving away a Clio water bottle. So pay attention to Undead Nicole in there, because she's going to be giving away a bunch of free stuff. And I know this because we've had more viewers on these streams than we have in quite a while. There's a bunch of you who probably don't already have every single speck of loot we've ever given out. And so for those of you in that category, we got...
Oh, you ruined it. I was going to use my brain to teleport you guys into the...
Oh, you can still do that.
Yeah. So I accidentally...
The miracle of Twitch.
I put their name tags up briefly so you kind of know who's coming. But right here we got Richard Fogey, the design director of the studio, and Leah Rivera, who is a mission designer, content designer on the team. And she and Fogey are together probably, are very responsible for a lot of what we saw in the 22-minute video.
Combined.
Yes. Very responsible for the video that you saw, because Fogey was actually the one playing the game. A lot of you have been kind of giving Fogey some crap for his State of Decay 2 skills, and he's giving you the evil eye right there. And Leah was actually responsible for a lot of the mission content that you saw in there. So we're going to, if you guys want to put your headphones on, or you don't have to, whatever. If you want to hear the game or not, it's up to you.
I know what it sounds like.
I hear it, yeah.
So we're gonna let's see
Fire this
here.
up.
Yeah, so we're gonna stick you guys up at the top of the screen and push play. So this is the video that was released by IGN today,
This morning.
this morning.
Very
So
exciting. One of the neat things about this is they talked in the article that they released on Friday about what night in the game was like, what nighttime in the game was like, and this is a great example of what night in the game is like, because pretty much the entire video takes place like right when night really starts, and then it goes over the course of the 22 minutes to the sun starting to come up in the distance, and you kind of see the light starting to creep back in. But it gives you a really good example of what, at least in this particular map, what nighttime feels like. And it's a little different in each of the maps. Some of them are lit a little bit differently, and some of them are a little bit brighter. This is, I think, one of the my favorite nights. It's it's dark. You can see silhouettes in the distance of mountains and trees and stuff, but really you have to be paying really close attention. You have to be using your flashlight, and especially like if you go inside into a house or something like that, there's no visibility because the light's not getting into the house, which is really great. Talking about some of the graphical improvements to the game, one of the things that I like the most is how our art team has really sort of refined and played with light, and I really appreciate Doug's willingness to kind of go back and forth with me on the light settings that work for the kind of the gameplay tone that we're trying to hit, and kind of balance that against what art's needs are to make the game look great all the time.
So, Leah, give us some background on this mission that the player's playing through. So when we first started, there was somebody named Lex, who the player just met. Like, what's going on here?
So Lex needed some help, obviously, because she was lost away from her home. This is under the ambient missions, and actually one of the things that I really like about the missions in general for a game is that the simulation adds so much to that mission. So like the horde of blood plague zombies in the front, I didn't put that there. It just shows up, and it just adds this like life and this spark to the missions that is really fun. And also with these ambient missions, like we like to throw a lot of variations at you too. So this is only one possible ending of this mission. You get home and her enclave is taken over by an infestation, which I did put there.
You did that on purpose.
I
that
did
was
it.
you.
You ruined her life.
Mean. I took all of her friends.
Poor Lex.
I know. Yeah, so the ends of the missions are sometimes variable. Sometimes the middle of the missions are variable. Like, it was really fun to structure these things, and that, like, they seem really simple on the surface, but then once you get in there, they, like, branch and twist and turn and fork and have all these different structures that they can play with.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, and so here, I did take all of her friends away, yes, but I gave you the chance to get her for your family, your community.
There's a silver lining for Lex.
Yeah, in this version.
in this version, the way it plays out, and that was really interesting when we kind of sat down to talk about the way ambient missions would work. One of the things that we took away from the first game was that a lot of the resolutions for those missions was very similar. There wasn't the way the systems work in the first game, and the tools that we had access to didn't give us a lot of great opportunities to sort of create variety just inherent in sort of the package. But now, especially when you're playing the game, you didn't really get a chance to talk about it because I was busy talking about nighttime stuff. But these ambient missions, they can occur pretty much anywhere. The way the systems work, it picks a viable location in the map, and it goes, okay, this fun grenade is going to go off here, and we're going to create this situation, and then based on a lot of different parameters and cool stuff that you put in there, it can go any one of these various routes. So like you said, it starts simple, especially when you're working on it. It starts like a simple idea.
And then it goes all over the place
and
after
it
that.
explodes, and it's most of the bugs you're probably
does.
dealing with now.
Yeah, it's true. But I love them. And I didn't put in that your car is almost out of gas either, which like stresses me out whenever my car is so low.
Oh yeah, which let's see here. We can't actually see that on the screen unless we get rid of you guys. But the Royale is almost out.
Pulsing bar.
It was fun because I was hoping it would run out of gas while I was out, but it didn't. I was like, oh, this will be great, and then we'll have to hoof it back to the base. But for expediency, this worked out pretty good.
We did get a lot of responses on Discord about how fast the gas gauge goes down. Like, what's the sort of the theory that's going into the gas gauge?
Mm-hmm. So vehicles are one of the most powerful things that you can get in the game for a number of different sort of systemic vectors. You can store things in the trunk, so they're incredibly valuable for scavenging. They're a pretty decent weapon against zombies. You want to run some zombies over, they're pretty good at that. And you're also a little bit safer when you're inside them, right, compared to being out in the open. And
you move faster.
And when you want to get from point A to point B, and it's got a lot of distance, you have a choice between, running for half an hour or longer, or getting in a car and getting there in 5 minutes. So they're an incredibly powerful tool that you have at your disposal for your community, and we really wanted to have it be the case that there was a cost to that. It's a survival game; there should be a cost to it. In the first game, we didn't have fuel, and it was something that people obviously and justifiably so took advantage of and would just wreck zombies and go through hordes, and it was probably like, oh, my number of zombies killed per weapon in the first game is hands down going to go to cars in general.
I think mine still might be.
And to raise the difficulty in Breakdown, we started taking cars away to the point where the map would be almost empty of cars because they were just so OP.
One car or two car highest levels of Breakdown, and so we wanted to get fuel as a system in there to increase the value of fuel, which was in the first game but wasn't used for very much, and also to make it a bit of the maintenance for these things. So you have to maintain your vehicles very consciously. It's part of the survival as well. So the speed that they go down is balanced very strongly against the time that we've been playing the game, UR studies that we've done, and looking at the utility of the vehicle, the amount of fuel that exists in the world, and making sure that we're balancing towards survival. And we've talked about this on previous streams, but exactly what you mentioned earlier, sort of the emergent nature of these systems colliding and creating these situations where, I was just on a mission where I was trying to bring Lex home, and we ran out of gas on the way home, and then there was a blood plague horde, or then there was a feral, and then there was a juggernaut. That's part of the drama of State of Decay.
I know you guys didn't actually set it up that way, but it seems like every time I run out of gas, it's at night next door to blood plague. That just happens.
It's high quality game.
I get out, I sit 2 desks away from Fogey, and every time that happens, I look over at the sort of the side of his head with a little bit of hatred.
I feel the heat. The heat.
So this section we're looking at here, where Fogey was kind of giving the folks at IGN a tour of the character system, and I think they've got. There's going to be a later time when we can get into a lot of depth about the character generation, how it works, and just the whole character system. But it's been like fun for me to sort of watch which characters got what characters got created for this particular game, because it is completely different every single time. You can see each of them has got a set of skills at the bottom of their list there. They've got their standing where they can basically level up their status in the community up to the point where they're a hero, at which point you see a bonus that gets unlocked. This guy is a party planner. He's a cake decorator by trade, and so when
pre-apocalyptic life.
Yeah, in his pre-apocalyptic life, he's a cake decorator, and so they put him in charge of party planning when he becomes a prominent member of the community. And similarly here, she's a rifle collector, and so she puts together an ammo wish list, which increases. I think it increases the how much ammo that you get. And so each of these characters has the potential to have some kind of big impact on your community, and we'll get more into that stuff later on as IGN releases more information.
Yeah, that's kind of a teaser for additional content that they have access to.
So here it looks like you're stopping home at your base and sort of prepping your character for whatever comes next.
Right, because I have no idea what Lee is going to throw at me in one of these Undead missions.
So why didn't you bring more bullets?
I still wanted there to be a sense of some drama potentially going on here. Yeah. I think you're anticipating a prognostication of what's going to happen coming up here in a few minutes.
Yeah, I feel so bad for Jennifer, man. She just becomes a sacrificial lamb for your little excursion.
Spoilers.
Oh, sorry.
So I know so many of you waited to watch this specifically with us, and we're avoiding spoilers for the 4 hours or so.
There's been like 10 minutes of rip Jennifer in the chat, so don't worry about it.
Please, spoilers. Our community is spoiling this lovely video. So what I'd been thinking was I was just going to go out on a scavenging run. I actually was looking to engage with some more ambient missions when they turned up. But they don't instantly pop up the second you walk out your front door. So I thought I'd go here and check out some food maybe.
I like all your decisions to you bring a gun without a suppressor, you fast search every chance you get. You're trying to make some zombies happen here.
Well, I was playing for drama. Like I said a little
there's
earlier.
some drama.
Drama's waiting outside.
If people watched me play sort of in my normal non-cheat mode style, they would be bored out of their minds. I'm so cautious and so slow. Oh, this feral was a nightmare.
Oh yeah, so you hit the gas cloud. I think you clipped the gas cloud a little bit, didn't you?
Yeah. There was a bloater right outside. And again, none of this is scripted. Nope. It just happened that there was a bloater right outside, and then a feral showed up, and the combination of those things led to the demise of Get up, Jennifer! And she starts to, and then no.
The feral.
Johnny T. Farrell shows up and
yeah, folks
I really
on Discord
like aim and click. Oh no!
That was a great moment. The folks on when we were talking about this on Discord, they pointed out that that's a new feral kill animation that they've never seen before in the previous game.
Throat rip.
It looked like it took the top of her head off.
Yeah.
So now we are Lex. We're that same character we just rescued, which is pretty cool.
We got our new hero going.
Rest in peace, Jen.
Sorry, Jen. I was excited when I saw you took the shotgun and then saw the feral, though, the first time I watched
Right,
this. I was
because
like, yeah, it's going down!
shotguns are usually great against ferals. Except I only had like 2 rounds to try to make that work. And you heard me. I had it right there, dead to rights.
So close.
And you weren't reloading after
click,
each
click,
shot.
click, click.
So
But one thing is nice is you're actually going out here to
Vengeance.
Right. Done. Done.
there you go.
Same feral. Vengeance for Jennifer.
softened him up.
And this is Lex, right?
Yeah. Right?
So just came into the community and having a moment of going out redemption. They sent her
Proving
out.
herself.
Everybody else was a little too attached to Jennifer. They were too sad to go and take care of it, and Lex stepped up.
That's right.
So I like how you can see here, like, like before you were making a bunch of noise and a bunch of zombies were all swarming you, and you fired and your gun was attracting more of them. But it actually is possible if you kill enough zombies to reduce the population. Like, you've got a breather right now. The zombies aren't gone for good, but you've got a little breather where you can do something because you killed enough.
Exactly. They're not. It's not just endless. You can find areas that have so many zombies that even that tack that I just took is not viable. You'll notice that this time I did take 2 stacks of ammo on the way out.
But not the bandages from the body.
I'm equipped for a battle here. I'm
You're
ready.
going.
I'm ready
You're
to
gonna get 'em.
take stuff out.
Not for the aftermath.
No.
Lex
No.
doesn't take any crap, nor does she take any damage, apparently. But Leah, there was a question earlier on about did you have a favorite mission type that you scripted, or is it more of a philosophy?
I think I had a fun position in that I actually got to create at least one of each of the mission types. So that was really fun for me to just see how they all interacted with each other and then interacted with the game. And every mission I make is my favorite.
Every mission you make is my favorite. Too.
Oh, thanks.
Just like every piece of art that Doug produces is your favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then there's the standalone missions versus the arc missions too. So all the ambient missions are really little one-shot, little nicely contained pieces, and then we have the arc ones personal missions that'll take you through a beginning, middle, and end of a story, and those are really fun to put together too. You get to tell a little bit about your survivors.
And then we're not talking over much about how the game wraps up, but you've got a couple of those
Got
as
to do
well.
some endings, yeah.
Got some endings, got some middles, got some enclaves.
So good.
I will say that Leah was one of the most patient designers I've ever worked with, because there was lots of bugs from her that said, I can't finish this mission that it's my job to do, so could you? And then I'd get caught up in something else, and then but she was the only designer I ever felt bad about not delivering stuff to. So,
She's got a 3-year-old. She's used to
very patient. Thank you, Leah. I
You're
hope
welcome.
when you, anyway.
Yep.
when Richard Fogey wants something from me, I put it on the back burner forever.
Yeah, see, patience gets results.
Won't fix. Oh, sorry, Fogey. Did you want that fix?
I just go over your head, straight to Doug and cry.
So Damien's asking about the new randomly generated mission types. Like what sort of variety of ambient missions can we run into?
I don't want to go and reveal kind of the whole kit and caboodle, as my wife likes to say. But you want to talk about a couple of the ones that you put together?
Sure. Well, there's the one you just saw, which is a person is lost away from home, and you need to get her to her house and where her friends were, and multiple endings. And then, there was an infestation there, right? So there's another one that is hunting down infestations. So you run into these 2 people. They could be whatever combination of people, guys, girls, whatever, Yeah. It's all
Everything in
random. It's lovely. Everything in between. And they're like, hey, you want to go hunt some infestations with us? And you can say, sure. Let's do it. Or you can say, no, sorry, that's too much.
Or you can just drive right by.
Or you can drive right by. It's all your choice.
Say, see you later, out of the window.
It is great, though, because they help you deal with some infestations
They do.
that are in the map.
It's
Yeah.
super nice.
Because those infestations are going to be there either way, right?
Exactly,
And so getting some
right.
help is not going to be a bad thing.
No, not at all. And then that one has variety too, of course. They can peace out after one mission, or they can just keep going through several different infestations, and giving me rewards throughout, of course, because I love the rewards.
Leah's very generous with rewards. I'm very stingy. My missions aren't going to give you crap. So, whenever you get nice stuff, you have Leah to thank.
That was pro style right there, by the way.
I know, I love that
Pro
backwards
move.
dynamite toss.
Yeah, I think people in the chat have given you crap over the non-headshots that you're getting here.
Look,
The dynamite was perfect, though.
Yeah, the dynamite was absolutely perfect.
I'll just say that Lex's shooting stats are kind of low right now. So I had to compensate a little bit.
It's
Anyway,
kind of new. Yeah.
one of the other great things about the structure that we have is, there are tons more ambient missions on top of what Leah has. And again, each one has its own variety built into it. You're not going to see it quite the same configuration twice, whether it's the location that it pops up or the branches that it kind of takes and how folks interact with it. But it's one of the things that it's really straightforward for us to add more of this stuff to the game after the game is released, and we have a lot of great plans for supporting the game post-release, both in the form of the DLC Independence Pack and the Daybreak Pack that you were talking about earlier, which again range from smaller to like whole new kind of game mode kind of things. But in addition to that, we're going to be like just throwing these new things in there. So as you continue to play State of Decay and engage with the game, you're going to be like, was that there before? I don't know if I've ever played that mission before. Or more branches have gotten added to an ambient mission type. So the game's just going to keep getting more and more content, richer and richer as we continue to go on.
I'm very excited to be able to give you those moments.
Count Bust is wondering if all vehicles drain fuel at the same rate, or if it's different fuel efficiency for different vehicles.
Different fuel efficiency and different tank sizes for different vehicles. So, you can get some sporty little two-seaters that are fast as hell, but like their gas tanks are the size of a thimble, and so you really have to think like, I'm going to get where I want to quickly, and this car is very nimble and can get around a lot of these wrecks in the world, but I'm going to have to make sure I take some fuel with me, and there's not necessarily a lot of room in the trunk either for those. Or you can take a big old van. Big old slow van that has, tons of storage, super big, hard to get around, but a little bit more efficient, maybe fuel-wise, for the number of trips you're going to be taking back and forth.
Yeah, and also, your characters can also gain skills. We'll get into this more in later videos, but your characters can gain skills that also improve their fuel efficiency if you're a particularly good driver.
They're talking about Steve again.
Oh, is this the? So is this a siege? Are we getting started here?
It's a siege.
So that's another thing that Leah contributed. Do you want to tell us about sieges and kind of how they work?
Sure. Yeah, so any population of people will make noise, right? Just naturally. And as you build up your base and you gain in numbers, you start making more and more noise. And noise attracts zombies. So every once in a while, we check to see how much noise is going on, and if it's above a certain threshold, we'll give you a chance for a siege. And so this community apparently was noisy enough.
It's probably something else I set up.
Yep, that it triggered the siege here. And it's just an assault on your base, or you have to defend against zombies for a while. And there are various levels of sieges too. Like if you're not very noisy, like it won't be as bad. And if you're really noisy, it could get crazy. So
yeah, this one wasn't too bad. This
you had a lot of help too. Like,
I
there's a lot
did.
of people in your community.
And this community is supposed to kind of be a portrayal of something mid to late game. In terms of overall power, you can see like the guns that I'm using are very high end and pretty nice fancy weapons compared to what you're going to be have access to at the outset of the game. So yeah, fairly well equipped. Nice number of people too, right? Like this,
Yeah.
if you're community only in a base this size and you had a community of 2,
It'd be a lot more trouble.
that might be
Might
it.
not
I
be
would like
making
to
as much
point out
noise.
that
That's true. That's a good point as well. We probably wouldn't be making anywhere near as much noise.
I would like to point out about this base and all of our bases actually that if you do provide power to them, they will be lit up somewhat at night as well.
Yeah.
So
So in this case, you hadn't built a generator or anything like that would provide light.
I did not. I think the most I did, and I think I did it after the sequence, and just for later, I might have had a facility mod that provided power to one specific facility as opposed to the entirety of the base.
So you see that one light up, but
Yeah. Well, and again, I think I put that in the daytime, but like. It is nice when you get kind of later and you have a base that's been built properly, not me just freestyling. And you're coming back to the base from being out in the nighttime like this, and it's kind of this warm glow.
It's your,
It feels safe. There's some lizard brain stuff going on there where you start to go, oh, thank God. Yeah.
I'm home, right? And then zombies come and attack it.
that's right.
Yeah. So this particular base is the container fort. So this was one that was actually James, one of our world artists, came up with this idea and just sort of like just kind of built it himself and showed it to us. We were like, holy crap! So you really feel like secure in a place like this.
Except for the waves of zombies piling in.
But you saw
Sometimes.
he was up on the ramparts. He was shooting them before he got in. There were choke points they'd had to pass through. They weren't just coming over walls in every direction. Like this, it's a different experience defending this base from defending a lot of others.
At some point, we will have a stream, I'm sure, dedicated to base and stuff.
base
and
building,
that'll
yeah,
be
we
a
will.
lot of fun because there was a lot of work put into how bases function this time.
Yeah, there was definitely a lot of time put in.
Watch the sunrise.
I know, yeah. So
Over
this
your
is the
beautiful
end of
hoodie.
it, right? And I said the light's starting to come up, and a few minutes from now it would be, a little scary, something off in the distance.
Yeah, so that's the sound of a playground, right?
It's little hearts.
Little hearts.
That's right.
Oh, it's so sweet.
That's where you go to get healed up.
Good luck with that.
So that is the video. So I guess we should probably just kind of go into a little bit of a Q&A mode right
You
now.
can go into Q&A
Cool.
mode.
We've fielded a couple of questions here and there, but our main focus has been just on the video and it's sort of explaining what people are seeing there. So why don't I put the video on in the background and then let's pay some more attention to the
Something
chat.
more interesting to watch.
Yeah, exactly. So let me get
The
that
chewing
started.
gum.
Kuro, if you mention one more time about the backup lights, I'm going to drive to your house today. Okay.
Somebody keeps mentioning the backup lights are on when we're driving forward.
Oh. So one of you guys say bases can be raided by other people and zombies. One of your streams questions you said about other survivors raiding your base. Or is it going to be an actual thing? I'm not sure. You just said.
Oh, they're talking about humans attacking the base.
There are situations where humans will attack your base, but it's not like that zombie siege that we just
You
saw.
make too much noise and a bunch of humans show up. Like
Right.
that's not how it works. It's not the same way as the zombies. And actually, yeah, we got one question about do zombies behave differently at night? That popped up during the last thing, and I think that there's no actual different. Their instincts are still the same that they always are. That's kind of the thing about zombies is that they basically think the same all the time, but their population numbers are different at night. So you're probably going to run into more of them, and so you'll probably get a little bit more scared of them at night than
They're a
you
little
are
harder
during
to
the day.
see too, so you're going to run into a
Yeah.
lot more of them, a lot closer than you were expecting. I mean, that's a very real thing. Like they did this when I was learning to drive in high school. They were like, look at the difference between the distance you can see in the middle of the day and a little, it's an image of a little kid running across the street with a ball, and they show that same image, like with your lights off at night, and or even with your lights on at night, and it's like you can only see, about that far in front of you, and you have to be a lot more responsive and reactive. So, like when I'm playing in the daytime and I'm playing properly, and I have, a suppressed weapon, I pick stuff off in the distance, so I never even have to deal with it, unless it's safely holed up in a building that I'm going to scavenge.
Right.
But at night you can't get that same thing unless you happen to peep their glowing eyes off in the distance and try to make that work.
Which is the creepiest thing when you run across like a blood-plague horde and you see just the glowing eyes and your headlights are off and it's just like,
The-
she ran out of gas.
The thing I respond to the most at night is the sounds, because Blood Plague makes that unique sound, and it creeps me out.
Super creepy.
It is. I just start running, but then you never know if you're running in the right direction.
So there was a question about zombie population. Can you scroll up just a touch?
Yeah, sure.
Are population of zombies just randomly generated, or does it take any considering how much you've thinned out an area? It definitely looks at how you've thinned out an area, the safe zones that you've created in the various structures that you have been scavenging and clearing out are all taken into consideration when we figure out how many zombies are supposed to be in a given area.
Yeah, and there's definitely the short-term stuff that we saw there, where it's like after you kill a bunch of zombies in an area, they don't just spawn infinitely in
Yeah,
an area.
it's-
They'll calm down for a bit and give you a
I
breather.
was still making a lot of noise and using a unsuppressed, very loud weapon, and they kind of stopped coming because I cleared that area of what was there.
So Alfred Ben has asked us a few times, what's the deal with people fighting melee left-handed and shooting right-handed?
Everybody in State of Decay is ambidextrous. In a post-apocalyptic future, you can't just depend on one hand. Because what happens if you lose the use of that hand? You got to be ready to go with the other hand.
Oh yeah, no,
Right.
exactly.
And why risk your good hand when you can risk your left hand in melee combat? I mean, what happens if a feral just bites it off? That's all I'm saying. How would you sign your checks in the apocalypse?
Kodakins asked, will you be able to play with 2 or 3 players, or is it only 1 or 4?
The range is from 1 to 4.
yes.
So you can play with 2 players, 3 players, 4 players. No players, you're not playing, I guess.
That's not fun. It's not fun that way.
One
to 4 players.
Yeah.
I will address very quickly the question that spammed the beginning of this. Stay tuned for. I mean, that's all we can say when people ask about Steam. So stop asking, please.
Yeah, no,
You're just wasting your energy on the keyboard if you're asking about Steam right now.
but you know, there we'll definitely be able to talk more about things like that in the future. But yeah, right now, stay tuned.
NPCs definitely will head up to your watchtowers and guard those, assuming you have enough. And
Assuming you built them.
yeah, assuming you've built them.
And folks were also asking, are NPCs actually like opening those doors themselves to
Yes.
to knock zombies?
Oh yeah.
They will also close doors.
Like behind them when they walk through them.
Or when I'm trying to walk through them. It's very considerate of them to make sure the base is safe.
Yeah, so Kia1235 asks us, can you tell us a little bit more about leadership roles in communities? I think we're gonna hold off on that one for a little bit. There's gonna be, I think at some point there's gonna be a bigger discussion about character development in general, and I think that'll be the perfect time to address that question. But it is pretty important to the way the game progresses, and so we're excited to get into that when we do, but it won't be yet.
Oh dang! I just saw one that I liked. Hold on. Max number of survivors. There is a hard limit, but I think it's going to be really hard for folks to actually get up to it without putting themselves in a situation that's very hard to maintain. Of course, the instant the game comes out, some of our hardcore players will be like, "It was a piece of cake."
That's right. I have 2,000 people in my mouth.
No trouble hitting the cap.
But it's a big. Each time you add a person, there's a cost to it, right?
Right. The food cost is significant compared to the first game. The first game kind of had some calculations that it did. And you could have this invisible, mostly invisible, like 30, 40, 50 some odd people that made up your community, and most of them were just kind of, they weren't real. They were just kind of taking up resources, and we did some calculations, and like they would consume some food. In this one, you can directly see how much food is being consumed every day by a given survivor, maintaining the entire group of folks, like medically, ammo-wise, the amount of noise that's getting made at a base, based on the number of people that are there. Maintaining a highly populated community is very difficult.
So we try to treat it like it's a soft cap. Like there is a hard limit on how many people you can have, but the hope is that you'll start feeling that pinch before you get there, and that's not going to feel like it's the real limit. Hair Denser was asking about customizing characters, and when we get into character development again more later, but basically, the idea behind State of Decay is that just like in real life, if you were trying to recruit a group of survivors to last through the zombie apocalypse, you wouldn't be able to just make up whoever you wanted. Like you'd have to take the people you can get, and so it's trying to scavenge around for people to find the right folks is one of the challenges of the game, and so you don't just get to decide who you get, but once you do get them, there's a lot of choices you can make later on down the line about how that person develops, what skills they specialize in, how they develop socially, like who becomes the leader. There's still lots of decisions you make to customize your community, whether or not you can actually sort of like decide what their face or their hair looks like. That is part of them. It's part of who they are. It's part of their identity, and they bring that with them into your community. So,
light does not attract zombies. The flashlight does not attract.
The flashlight,
zombies.
clicking it on and off, does that?
No.
Yeah, and part of the reason for that is it's The flashlight is one of the easiest buttons to fat finger because it's on one of your clicky sticks on your controller, and during the daytime it's really easy to not notice you turned it on, and so we don't necessarily want people just like they're sneaking up and then they accidentally attract the entire world of zombies by turning their flashlight on. So we're letting that stay. It's a help to you 100%, and it's not something you have to worry about ruining your day.
No swimming in the game.
Yeah.
Just never, there's a lot of stuff associated with like getting swimming to work and getting enemies to work in deep enough bodies of water to swim in, and it just wasn't a bridge we wanted to cross in this game.
Yeah, there's so many things that we could accomplish with that time that was going to end up being more important to the whole experience than swimming.
Yeah.
So Brent is asking, does SOD2, does it pay homage to things like The Walking Dead and other like zombie media? I know that the original game definitely was full of tons of Easter eggs and references and things like that.
We spent months watching movies and stuff like that, just taking down notes about what would be fun to call out. And Macmillan still has like notebooks full of his ideas that he ended up putting in the game.
Yeah. And I think that spirit sort of continued on into the sequel. Like we kind of kept doing stuff like that.
Not as much explicitly, like not like in your face signage or something like that. But there's still nods. There's actually quite a bit more Easter eggs thanking our biggest fans.
Oh yeah, that's true.
So, but I mean, situationally, we really loved the tone of Walking Dead, so that feel is always something.
You cannot siphon fuel from vehicles, but that is a great idea. I'll put that in my notes. But that's a great idea.
Yeah. And so and I think I remember I know at least a couple of the bases, like in the original game, some of the bases were named after like directors of zombie movies or creators of
Schneider
zombie fiction, and you had there's a Savini residence and the Kirkman residence, and there's similar I think if you poke around at the bases, a couple of them in the new game also have references like that to zombie media. Some of them to more recent zombie media, things that came out since State of Decay 1 was released.
Can we unload guns? No, you cannot unload guns.
Nope.
Wet When I Water asks, can I play Daryl Dixon? You can play like Daryl Dixon. We're definitely not putting characters from other people's properties into our game. Sorry about that, but the law.
I'm sorry about that. The law. If we could do that, The Rock would have been the first person I would have put in the game anyway. And put on all the box covers and stuff like that. Can you imagine you just use somebody's likeness however you like, however you want? I mean, games kind of used to do that. Kind of. Like somebody who's supposed to be somebody, but yeah, it'd just be like the Rock. Zombie Rock.
Zombie Rock. Zomrock.
Nightfox11 asks, are there children in the game? We'll be murdering child zombies.
No, not even a little bit.
Yeah. Just decided not to go there. It's easy enough not to.
Never, ever.
Yeah.
So there's the answer to that question. Let's all think about, horrible things for a second and then move on. I think folks are asking if Abraham Lincoln is going to be a playable character, and no, I don't think so.
No, because he's already in Vampire Hunter.
Oh, that's right. He's a vampire guy.
Yeah.
Han Solo Dolo has a representation question. He's asking, are there going to be obese zombies? And yes, absolutely. There are. So, not only do we have the Juggernauts, which are the ultimate obese zombies, but yeah, there are all shapes and sizes of zombies in our game. We are very, we're not going to body shame these zombies. They can look however they want. We will stomp their heads exactly the same way. And
Lex just got her revenge.
Yeah, we're back to Lex's revenge again.
This video flies by. So,
Yeah,
22
right?
minutes?
Yeah. So, Who What Where asks, is fuel consumption just affected by vehicle type, or how you drive it too? Certainly, how often you drive it affects vehicle consumption. Affects fuel consumption. And a lot of the question of how you drive it is actually affected by your character's skills. Like characters can have certain skills and abilities and stuff like that raise their particular fuel efficiency. And you imagine, they're feathering that gas pedal just perfectly right, using the gears just right, and they're getting better fuel efficiency out of the car. Or maybe they're tinkering with the car behind the scenes, making it run a little better. Letting off the accelerator, going down the hill, that kind of thing. You just imagine that they're doing that, and their skills will give you advantages. So there's going to be certain characters where, if you want to go on a really long run, take Bob, because Bob's the one who's going to be able to make it back with gas still in the tank.
You say Bob now, but Bob in the next one's going to be a Leadfoot. Or when they try it, and they'll be like, Jeffrey lied to us.
Well, between Lex and Allison, I think I want to make a community just full of people with hoodies now.
Good job.
Hey, Bogey, there was a question. I don't know if we're ready to answer this about adversarial human enemies.
What was the question?
It says, are there adversarial human enemies?
Oh yeah,
Yes.
they're very dangerous if you're not prepared.
Thrill Seeker's asking, do optics on weapons make a difference?
We don't have like iron sights or like scoped views where we switch out and go into first person or anything like that, because that entails a ton of work on character controllers and things like that. But if you see optics on a weapon, it likely means it has access to a zoom level, so you can usually click in on the right stick and get a tighter zoom level, which will allow you to be more accurate from a distance.
Yeah, and to answer you, Hansaladol, there are other attachments on weapons other than suppressors. We'll probably, just in case there's discussion of that, in future IGN videos and stuff, we'll save the details on that for later. But yeah, there's more than just suppressors.
You guys know I'll end up talking about that ad nauseum, so don't worry, we'll get there.
Let's see here. Munchkins, there are some we have expanded and deepened the base customization system. That's another question we're going to address more later. So keep an eye. Subscribe to our YouTube channel or to our Twitch channel or do whatever. We'll definitely be addressing that in a video sometime very soon.
So there's a question here about have we considered adding sliders to the game? How much food rations are shared, zombie density, day-night cycle, etc. And that's just not the kind of simulation that we're making, the one in which you have where you basically as a player have to decide how the game is balanced and how it feels. We created a specific experience to kind of simulate what it's like in this particular apocalypse. How will you survive? And we wanted it to be the case that players that are looking for a straightforward action game get in there without having to again sort of design the experience on their own. I know a lot of folks are down for that level of control over a simulation, but that's not really what we set out to build.
Yeah, we've kind of bitten off an interesting challenge with the State of Decay franchise, which is, we're trying to make a game that really does please a very wide range of players, which is kind of unusual. Usually you try to zero in and target on a specific experience you want everyone to have, and you try to nail that experience as hard as you can. But with us, we know that this sort of zombie survival fantasy, it's a very broad thing that people are interested in. From people who play all kinds of different games are interested in this question of how you'd survive in the apocalypse. People from very action focused gamers to very strategic focused gamers, and we really wanted this game to sort of to have a broad enough appeal that people who want one of those or the other have things that they can hold on to. So there are like choices you can make, and we'll get into this more with the base building discussion. There are choices you can make in your base that do change things like how much people are eating and pay trade-offs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it's not down to the precision of like a rationing slider.
We don't pull it up to that level of abstraction where it feels kind of like a tycoon game almost, where or a sim game where you're manipulating the sliders. Although there are folks at the studio, oh my gosh,
who would just love that. Yeah,
Brian would flip out if that's what we were making. He would go nuts for it.
Sauce Boss asks, you guys hiring?
In fact, we are.
Unfortunately, we're hiring for a new community manager because Nicole Hamlet. This was actually going to be her last backseat driver stream. We totally took it over because of the the IGN video released today, and so we kind of took over her slot. But this was going to be her last goodbye backseat driver stream, and so she's in there. One of the reasons she's like so eager to give you guys water bottles in the chat right now is because she's going to miss you guys. She's going to be, Friday is her last day as our community manager, and she has been so amazing for years. Talking to you guys, keeping you guys abreast of what we're doing, and sort of standing in sort of in that role where a lot of times we're really focused on building the game and we don't have a lot of time to focus on answering your questions and stuff. But she's been in there with you guys the whole time, and she's been so amazing. And I hope you guys show her sufficient appreciation for all that she's done for this community, because she has been incredible.
Defiant Ketchup, please don't riot without Nicole. Please don't.
Yeah.
Now we don't have anybody to deal with the riots.
Exactly.
Exactly. So we are going to be hiring for a new community manager, and so we hope we'll get that slot filled soon, because we know that you guys are terrifying without
Whoa.
No, I'm kidding.
No, he's right. There are some terrifying monsters
Yeah,
in there.
mostly looking at a blade of meat shield who's in there going, "No Nicole, no peace. No Nicole, no peace."
Fire! Set fire!
So yeah. So folks are thanking Nicole in the chat, which
Well,
is only appropriate.
We can't thank Nicole enough. And
There was a Zoom mode. Sorry.
Oh, there it was, yeah.
right there.
And so folks are asking, Nicole is actually, she's taken a full-time writing gig on a game, which is really exciting, because she's been, she's not just a community manager, she is also a writer.
She's a published author.
She is a successful writer, and now she gets to do more of this other thing that she loves full-time, which is going to be awesome. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what she produces over where she's headed. So
It was only a matter of time until her success would take her away from us. See, I could be a writer too.
that's all it takes.
I do have an English degree in writing. I never used it though. And obviously I can't speak the language very well.
Captain Assassin is asking if she's going to get a commemorative tricycle from you as a going away gift.
I'd love to give away the Tricycle Gibraltar award to Nicole, but she's already immortalized
Immortalized
in
yes.
the game.
Not memorialized.
Not memorialized.
Immortalized.
In the game.
I guess they're both kind of dark.
You guys will have to find her, but she's there.
Dan31 is endorsing that Nicole is an amazing author. So, yeah, appreciate that. There was another question real quick about surveying in the game, which is something that I don't think it's been shown yet. And I'm not sure if they're planning on, if there's going to be a video on that, if we should hold off. Or if we
Might
should...
as well wait until they get through. I'm pretty sure we went through surveying, not maybe to the level of detail that we do with the upcoming sort of community screen and survivor details, or the base management stuff. But I think it's in there. So
Yeah, so we'll probably chat about that later. But it's it's still a mechanic in the game. We'll just say say that much and leave it at that. So let's honestly, yeah, let's leave it there with that fitting tribute to Nicole.
so many questions. I'm sorry we weren't able to get to all of them.
But we're gonna keep doing this though. Like
we'll
every
keep
time
doing this.
IGN puts something out, we're gonna come here. If you've got a question that we missed, please come back, ask it again. We're gonna try to get to as many as we can. So.
There's a few of you we will ignore on purpose.
Yeah, mostly a blade of meat.
You guys
shield.
know who you are anyways, so ask away.
So I just want to thank Richard Fogey for coming in here, Leah Rivera for coming and joining us, and also for creating a lot of the content that we saw here today, and of course it's me and Brant, and we'll say goodbye to you guys. And one other thing, at some point when we put this video on YouTube, Wonder is going to add a subscribe link around here somewhere and a link to another video. So if you want to like or subscribe or whatever, if you're here on Twitch with us, you can't do any of these things. But if you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe because we're going to keep making these videos. We're going to keep giving you more information about the game. We want this to get to everybody who's interested. So
That's right.
Please go ahead and do that. And and we are going to sign out. See you later,
Thank you
everybody.
so much. Take care, everybody.